Hello and welcome to my first episode of my brand new podcast. Now, this is the first podcast I've ever done in my life, so please be nice about the quality because it's not going to be great. I'm having to record this on an iPhone 10 and it's not going to be the best quality ever. I'm also going to have to do this in one take. Well, I don't have to, I just want to get a feel for how it's going to sound and whether or not editing's going to be better in the future, because I've listened to a lot of podcasts where they just don't edit most of it. They just talk and talk and talk and leave mistakes and stuff like that in. I've also seen other ones where they edit and take all the mistakes and stuff out, and this is my first episode, so there's probably going to be a lot of mistakes, so please be nice. But this podcast is going to be about all things nerd because I'm an absolutely massive nerd. So I'm going to call this podcast for now the Blue Box Podcast, and if you like that name, please let me know in the comments, or if you have any other names that you think might be a bit better, also put them in the comments below, because you never know, I might just choose it. So as I said, I'm a massive nerd and have been for most of my life. I'm 19 now, and I've probably been a nerd since I was about 7. So that is a good 12 years of being a nerd. So, as you can tell, I was probably, the weird kid on the playground who was not bothered by football or anything like that. Give me a sonic screwdriver and I was happy as you could be. And probably even happier because I had a sonic screwdriver. So, anyway, let's start with what things I actually love as a nerd, such as TV shows and films. Now, my biggest love in the world, as you can probably tell already because I've already mentioned it, is Doctor Who. Now, Doctor Who is my absolute love. I can't even describe how much I love this show. I just think it's absolutely incredible to have such an iconic show in Britain that's actually iconic all around the world. If you see a police box, you instantly know that's a TARDIS. If you see a metal robot running around saying exterminate, you instantly recognise that as a Dalek. So it's got a lot of iconic things in it, but it's the content that I absolutely love. I just love the fact that you have the Doctor, who is a man who comes from outer space, and he comes to Earth to save us. He goes to other planets to save them. He basically is a superhero in a way, and he comes to Earth and picks up random people and takes them on these mad adventures through space and time in his police box called the TARDIS. And I just find that concept so simple, but so imaginative and incredible at the same time. I don't think you'll ever find a better idea than that. That's just my opinion, obviously, although a lot of people don't like Doctor Who at all. But I love it, and I have loved it since 2008, so 10 years of Doctor Who in my life. And I can tell you, it's been a very good 10 years. I started watching Doctor Who in 2008, and my first ever episode was Partners in Crime in Series 4 of the Revive series with David Tennant, and I fell in love with the show instantly. My auntie came over to just watch us while my mum just went out with my dad for a bit. And she decided to put Doctor Who on, and I just happened to be there, and I'm so happy I was, because I didn't think I'd ever like Doctor Who. I'd heard of it, obviously, but I didn't ever want to watch it because I didn't think it'd be something I'd like, and boy was I wrong. So I watched the show, and I fell in love, and I instantly went and watched all the other series of the show. Not the classic series, I've seen some of it. I'm currently watching all the classic series, well, trying to anyway. But it's a very big task because there's over 800 episodes, so that's going to take me a while. But the Revive series, I've seen countless times. I can probably tell you what quote came from what episode in what series, and probably even tell you what minute it was in the show. So, Doctor Who is my big, big, big passion. If you look in my bedroom, well, you can't because you can only hear me, but there is Doctor Who stuff everywhere. I have all the sonic screwdrivers mounted on my wall because the sonic screwdrivers are just the main thing I love in the show. I just don't think you can go wrong with a sonic screwdriver. I've got replicas, I've got all the TARDISes, I've got 200 or 300 figures in a box under my bed. I've got a canine, I've got everything. If it's in Doctor Who, I've probably got it somewhere. So, Doctor Who was the big thing in my life that I could finally immerse myself in a world that was different from the one I was in, and it just made me feel a lot more comfortable because everyone seemed to have their thing that they were into, and I never had anything. So when Doctor Who came along, it took over my life and took over a lot of my family members' lives because they've had to watch it ever since. So, Doctor Who, that is the thing I will probably talk most about in this podcast, because I would like to make this a series, and obviously the name of the podcast is the Blue Box Podcast. So you can see it's going to be mainly Doctor Who, probably like 90%. I'm going to try and do other things such as like Star Wars, Harry Potter, Game of Thrones, The Walking Dead, Ghostbusters, Back to the Future, anything like that, because I do love them as well. And speaking of them, I'm going to move on to Star Wars, which I recently got into in 2015 when The Force Awakens came out, because my film teacher back in college, he was going to see the midnight screening of The Force Awakens, and he couldn't believe I'd never actually seen Star Wars, so he asked me to go home and watch A New Hope. So I went home and watched it, and I was speechless. I couldn't believe I'd never seen this film before. It just instantly hooked me right from the beginning, and then I went into college and was talking to my teacher about it, and that night I went home and watched The Empire Strikes Back, and that changed my life. The Empire Strikes Back is my definition of a perfect film. I didn't think you could have a perfect film, but to me, The Empire Strikes Back is perfect. I don't think you could do anything better with it. I just think it's absolutely incredible. I love it so, so much. I also watched Return of the Jedi the next night, and then it came to the prequels, which is a very controversial topic, whether you like them or not. I didn't grow up watching Star Wars, so I didn't like the prequels that much. I feel like a lot of people who grew up with the prequels actually like the prequels. Like my friend, he grew up watching the prequels and he absolutely loves them and can't find anything wrong with them. And I know that's the case for a lot of people, but I myself really don't like the prequels. I've only ever seen them twice. Once because I had to watch them the first time, obviously, and then the second time I only watched because me and my friend were watching all the Star Wars back to back. So I had to watch them then, and I can tell you I did not enjoy them anymore the second time. So I have a lot of Star Wars merchandise as well, such as lightsabers, obviously. I've even got a custom lightsaber for myself that I got at Comic-Con, where I got to choose the handle of the blade. So I've got a nice, unique lightsaber for myself with a green blade, because I just think green looks the best. So Star Wars is another big thing in my life, but not as big as Harry Potter, which is something I grew up with from the age of, well, maybe about 12. That's not really growing up with it, well, ish. But I started watching Harry Potter because I used to do this youth thing at my church a few years ago. Well, a few years ago, it's a lot of years ago now. So it finally finished, which was sad and everything. But as a thank you to everyone who helped out. They took us all to Harry Potter World, and I'd never seen Harry Potter, so I thought, right, I'm going to have to watch all the films before I go, because it was the studio tour in London, which is all the sets from the films and stuff. So I thought, I'm going to have to at least see the films. And I watched Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, and again, just fell in love with it. And it completely changed everything. I was hooked. All I wanted was a wand. And I eventually got one a few years ago, and now got 10. So the collection's growing slowly but surely, and the books are incredible as well. And I just think I would have done a lot better at Hogwarts than actual school, because myself, I'm a more practical person. I don't like the whole classroom setting and stuff like that. It's not for me. Like, English, maths was never very good, but film, DT, all that sort of stuff, I passed with flying colours. So that was good, because that's what I want to do. Hence why I'm making this podcast. So Harry Potter is a big influence in my life. Not as big as Doctor Who, but it is very much up there. So next I'd like to talk about Lord of the Rings. Now, I've seen all the films countless times. I absolutely love them, but I've never actually read the books, because for me, I don't love to read. I do like to read, but it takes a lot for me to get into a book. So Game of Thrones, Lord of the Rings has been a very hard thing for me to get into the books, because they're so long and wordy. Well, I know the books, so of course the words, but they're just not really a thing I could get into. Maybe one day I'll be able to do it, but not right now. But I absolutely love the films, and I've got a replica of the ring. So Lord of the Rings is something I again grew up with. I do love Lord of the Rings. I think it's incredible. Haven't seen The Hobbit for some reason, don't know why, but I will get round to that at some point, because I have got the DVD, so I will start to watch that at some point. And Game of Thrones, because I accidentally said that. Game of Thrones is another big thing I love. It's just because it's so unpredictable. It can change at any moment. As we saw in the first series, when we thought the main character, Ned Stark, was going to be right there from the start and there till the end. And of course, at the end of the series, it's bye-bye to his head. So I could not believe they actually did that. And they always seem to do something like that in each series, and you can never tell who's going to live, who's going to die, who's actually going to stay on the throne. It's just incredible. And I've actually had the privilege of sitting on the Iron Throne at Comic-Con, which was a big thing for me. So I do go to Comic-Cons a lot. I've actually got one coming up next week in Nottingham. So Comic-Cons for me are a big thing in my life, because growing up, I could never really talk about nerd stuff to anyone. There was only a select few people, and even then they get a bit bored of it sometimes, and they'd want to just go and have a kick about it or something. So I could never really talk about it as much as I wanted to and be myself about it. But then I went to my first Comic-Con in 2015, I think it was. Or was it 2016? Well, it was either one. And I couldn't believe that there was such a community as big as that I could just go up to anyone in the room and just start a conversation with them if I wanted to. And they would quite happily sit there for hours on end and telling you about what they love, and you tell them what you love, and you'd see where you meet in the middle. And it's just an incredible experience. If you like anything like Doctor Who, Harry Potter, Star Wars, I highly recommend going to Comic-Con. And it's not just limited to those things, obviously. There is a lot more. But you get to meet people from the shows and films. Like, I've actually met 6 Doctors altogether, and meeting a 7th in July. I've actually met David Bradley, who played the first Doctor quite recently in the Christmas special in 2017. I've met Peter Davison, who plays the 5th Doctor, Colin Baker, who plays the 6th, Sylvester McCoy, who plays the 7th, Paul McGann, who plays the 8th, and Peter Capaldi, who plays the 12th. And I'm meeting Christopher Eccleston in July, which is going to be a very important moment in my life, because I paid a lot of money just to get that ticket. So that's going to be a big thing in a few months. But this Comic-Con coming up isn't going to be massive. It's just a small one. But I am going to meet Bernard Cribbins from Doctor who played Donna Noble's granddad, Wilf, who we all love. And I think he's an amazing actor, because I've seen him in other things as well, like The Railway Children, which was a weird film for me to love growing up, but I absolutely enjoyed it. But Comic-Cons are really important to me. I just feel that there's such an importance to have these communities where you can just go, be yourself, and you can dress up as a stormtrooper or whatever the hell you want, and you will not be judged. I haven't dressed up myself, but I hope to at some point, because I just think it'd be really fun to do. But I've met quite a lot of people, such as like Benedict Cumberbatch from Sherlock, which I also love. I met Billy Piper from Doctor Who, and I'll do a future episode where I talk about all the people I've met at different Comic-Cons. I actually met Vern Troyer a couple of weeks ago at Liverpool Comic-Con, and very sad to hear that last week he unfortunately passed away. So I feel really privileged to have been his last ever Comic-Con and actually got one of his last ever autographs at a Comic-Con. So that's something I'll treasure forever. So just these moments that you can have. So I am aware I'm rambling, because I could just talk about all this sort of stuff all day, which I will do in future podcasts. So if you want to hear me just ranter, just talk all day about different things, such as an episode of like Doctor Who, an episode of Star Wars, just different things. And if you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments, because that'd be very appreciated if you could leave me a few suggestions. I've got a few things working on, like such as spin-offs of Doctor Who, like the Sarah Jane Adventures, looking back on that, and Torchwood, things like that. So I'm also thinking about getting a friend in who has never seen Doctor Who, and get his reaction when I try to explain the show, and then he can go watch a couple of episodes, then come back and let me know what he thinks. So things like that you could expect to see coming up. So thank you very much for listening if you have made it to the end, because I am aware I've just been here rambling for about 20 minutes. I can promise you episodes will get better when I have proper plans in place. I just wanted to do this nice introduction to just get a feel for what it's going to be like to actually speak on a podcast, because I've never actually done this before. So it's something I'd like to really put some effort into and a lot of time into. So please let me know what you think in the comments, and any suggestions, let me know, and that would be absolutely brilliant. So thank you very much for listening, and I shall see you in the next episode.